Hi there, and welcome back to the Red Star Rugby League channel, or the CKM Red Rugby League channel, wherever you're joining us from. If you just joined us a moment ago, apologies, we have suffered some technical difficulties there, but we appear to have that resolved now. We're back. This is a brand new show, a brand new concept, where basically we're going through all the NRL Serbian representatives and talking through some of their individual performances and going through some of their key stats and wrapping up their performances as well and going through how they performed over the weekend. This week, just the four representatives to talk about. For those who are unaware, there's plenty of eligible Serbian players in the NRL, and obviously the most notable is Tom Trublovich. He's probably the crowning jewel at the moment in the Serbian representatives, but there are more, so we will go through them. We will start with Tom Uppercheck's performance. Obviously, not the result that the Eels wanted over the weekend, losing 40 points to 12 against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Uppercheck having a little bit of a torrid time down his edge in that first half in particular. As you see through his stats there, 2 missed tackles, one of them actually contributing to a Josh Mansour try, unfortunately. It just didn't seem to be clicking for him, as you see on his attacking stats. 49 metres, post contact 23 metres. A big performance when he was carrying the ball out of the centres, but because of how the Eels played and how limited their attack was, he found it very hard to come by ball. But when he was on the ball, he made plenty of contributions in attack. Defensively, though, unfortunately, it wasn't quite his day. He was defending inside Hayes Dunster. Dunster came jamming in on a few occasions, which meant Uppercheck had to go with him. And as a result, the leaked tries down that defensive right edge. Um, not the day that Tom Uppercheck would have wanted out in the centres there. It's very, very challenging when you've got inexperienced players outside you and you've got to try and almost carry that defensive edge, and even more challenging when you want to get ball in hand and you want to make those contributions, but because defensively the rest of your team isn't as sound, it means that you are left defending a lot of the time. And defense, for anyone that's not played before, defense tires you out a hell of a lot more than attack does. When you're in attack and you're rolling forward, you've got that momentum in your back. You can really ramp up and go from there. But when it comes to actually defending, it's very tough. You're constantly on your heels. You're constantly looking out for another angle being run. You're constantly checking up on where your man is. And for Uppercheck, it was no different this week. He was coming up against Mansour and Gagai, I believe, on that edge. And they're two very good attacking players. You saw Mansour rack up 141 carrying meters in the first half. He got plenty of early ball, which kept Tom very, very busy. And yeah, unfortunately, it just wasn't his day or the Eels' day at all. Not enough ball to come by, too much defensive work, and a few misreads from Tom Uppercheck in defence as well, unfortunately. But we will leave him there for that one. Unfortunately, not a lot to talk around in that one due to how the Parramatta Eels performed in that game. And we'll go through to the Panthers and Paul Momirovski. Eligible for Serbia. He is of North Macedonian descent, but he is also eligible for Serbia. 1 try, 68 minutes, 54 metres, 1 line break, 2 tackle breaks, and 11 tackles. Again, a really good performance. Momirovski could have had 1 or 2. The Panthers, they ran out 20 points to 14 winners over the Roosters, so that try contribution that he provided there proved to be a very important one. It was a really good try that he did score. Isaiah Yeo running the angle, showing it to the players coming under, and then Momirovski taking the ball to the line, showing it to his outside winger, which basically turned the hips of the centre outwards, and then he just capitalised on that, and Momirovski going through to score, and it was a good put down as well. He was leaning back as he was putting that down, and it's a very difficult skill to do, to maintain that grasp on the ball while on your way to the ground. It's not the easiest of things to do, but Momirovski did a good job of that. It was a very back and forth game. As you can see there, only 54 attacking meters. You'd have potentially liked to see a centre getting a lot more ball, but this game was played a lot more down the middle. There was a lot more contributions from the forwards, if anything. And yeah, Moborovsky coming in looking for work where he could, but ultimately his contributions were deemed to be enough with that one try there that we talked about against the Roosters in that 20 points to 14 win. Um, yeah, he's coming up. Is Moborovsky? He's not had a lot of game time this year, unfortunately, since making the move across from the Storm. Um, but this season, if he can get a little bit more game time, he could come good. But he again is another player that is technically eligible for the Serbian Rugby League. He's a big man in the centres. He can also play a little bit of wing, maybe a bit of second row at a push. But Moborovsky, he's a versatile player. He's made sure that he's come in looking for work where he can. But unfortunately, against the Roosters, there wasn't many opportunities to do so because of the attacking structure and the game dictating more that the game was to be played up the middle more than anything. Okay, and with that, we will go to that man that we talked about in the intro, Tom Trublovich. It is always a big ask when you play the Melbourne Storm. The Melbourne Storm are historically now one of the best teams in the competition. They beat a points differential record that stood for, I believe, in excess for 60, 70 years. Um, to try and rack up any sort of attack or any sort of basis for an attack there is incredibly challenging, especially with how firm the Storm are in defence. You'll see for anyone that does follow the NRL, the Storm are one of the best defensive teams in the competition this year, and probably historically as well. They're very hard to break down. Their defensive line is very well structured. It's very well set. They move as a unit. When one player goes, they all go, and that's very challenging when you're coming up against a team that is so well structured and well set. Trublovich did though give it his best. One try assist this week, which we've not covered in there. 80 minutes, 153 metres, 4 break assists, 5 tackle breaks, 1 offload, and no missed tackles. Yeah, the Tom almost put Ruben Garrick into the corner early on. He did manage to do so a little bit later to give the Storm, to give the Seagulls the lead for the first time in the game. He got on the outside shoulder. It was an out the back play. It's a set and a structure that we see a lot out of the Seagulls. Tom popping up in and around the back, out the back of that second phase play off the second receiver, then managing to drift a little bit wider, getting people to bite inwards because they know how good of an attacking player he is, and then him eventually sliding that ball out the back and then around to Ruben Garrick to score there. So getting an important try assist. I mean, the Seagulls did eventually lose 28-18 in that game, but they are still making a case for being there or thereabouts in the finals. And you've got to say that the ascension of Tom Trublovich back into premium form and back to his best is probably what has helped contribute, put the Seagulls back up there as they're playing off his confidence and his ability. And he's just very, very strong. Every time he touches the ball, defenders are very wary. You get centres making mistakes that they wouldn't usually make. They tend to bite in or over chasing a defensive line because they are so worried about what Trublovich will do. So even when he's not directly passing the ball, he's contributing to the game in that way just by being the attacking gun threat that he is. Moving in and around the back, forcing fullbacks to chase him across the field. You'll see when teams are 20, 30 metres out from their own defensive line, the fullback will usually sit on the side that Trublovich is on because they are very wary of the fact that he's going to get the ball out the back. The Storm, it was no different. You had Nico Hines sitting just either side of the ball, just keeping an eye on where Trublovich was. And to be fair to the Storm, they did, to an extent, manage to neutralise Tom. He still managed to rack up 153 metres, though. Some of them will have been off kick returns, but the 5 tackle breaks and the 4 break assists as well. Having someone like Tom Trublovich in your team is almost like having an extra running halfback. He'll get the ball, and because he's attacking the line and he's holding the ball out in front of himself when he's going at the line, it means that he will be drawing people in. They think that he's going to run the ball, and then he can just release a little pass away, and that'll buy you an extra 10, 15 meters sometimes, or potentially even just set up a try. Because if a defender overcommits and starts coming inwards, it creates a gap on the shoulder. Anybody that's on his shoulder then is immediately through that gap. And it's easy enough for Tom to create those opportunities. We see him do it week in, week out in the NRL. Okay. And finally, we move on to his brother, Jake Trublovich, was not Ben this week. Jake Trublovich, 80 minutes, 50 meters, 11 post contact meters, 48 tackles made, 0 missed tackles. I mean, the stats call out here just the way that the Seagulls are using Jake Trublovich this season. He's been used as somewhat an extra half. He's been used as a ball playing forward rather than a battering ram forward, which is what we see a lot of teams doing. 50 meters, there wasn't a lot of runs, but when you go to his passing stats, plenty of passing, plenty of receptions for the ball as well. But 48 tackles, that's a huge shift. You know, the Storm have got some big boys in their squad. They've got some very high level players, and having to defend against them the entirety of the afternoon and not putting a foot wrong defensively is an accolade and an achievement in itself. It's a massive contribution. You know, just having Jake in the middle, firming up those middles and making sure that nothing's coming through the guts, making sure that the ball's wrapped up in tackles. It's the subtle contributions that a lot of people don't recognise, and it's what Jake Trublovich does so well. Really stepping up and coming to the forefront in a very important game. You know, these are the games that realistically you want to be winning. And a lot of people had said during the week that if anybody could potentially knock an informed Storm side off, it could be the Seagulls. Unfortunately, they did fall short, as we alluded to there, in that 28-18 loss. But the contributions there of Jake Trublovich are there for all to see. You know, maybe not so much in attack, but that's to do with the systems and the setup. If you're told that your role is a ball playing forward, then you're a ball playing forward. You don't just get to make the decision to run the ball every set and not give the pass on, especially if you're part of a set structured play or if you're part of a setup there. So it was important there to note Jake's contributions. And again, the 48 tackles, he'll have covered a lot of ground in between those 48 tackles as well. It's very, very challenging defensively to do that many tackles and also be there ready in attack, ready to help move play structures on and help move your players into better transition spots and help them pick the right holes and the right runs, all while being very physically and mentally fatigued. And that is what Jake Trublovich has done very, very well. I think that he, you know, a bit of an unsung hero in this game. But no, that will do us there. We've gone through all 4 of the Serbian eligible representatives that ran out in the NRL this week. This is a new concept to the show. If you are enjoying it, please do let us know. And thank you for joining us. And we will see you next week as we go through all of the latest, well, it'd be round 22 of the NRL and all the Serbian representation that is available there. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you then.